Hello everyone, welcome. So Vizsla Silver, my name is Mike Pettingell, VP Business Development and Strategy. We've got a fantastic district scale asset, Sinaloa, Mexico, about 45-minute drive from the coastal city of Mazatlan. Be making some forward-looking statements today. So why silver, right? We're at a silver conference, we're at a mining conference. Silver is one of those commodities that is not just a commodity, it's a currency, it's a hedge. But really what we're attracted to is that industrial nature of silver, right? Lately it's been trading a bit more like it's an industrial metal, given all of the newfound uses for it. It's antimicrobial, similar to gold, but it's a lot cheaper. And so we're seeing it in a lot of the renewable space, the green space, and this demand continues to increase. We're not necessarily seeing that price movement today, but given this demand outpacing the supply, it will have to catch up at some point. I'm not going to stand here and tell you $100 silver, you've all heard that, but $30 silver is very, very much in the reality in the near term. And this is why we stand to benefit, because we have the most aggressive exploration program in Mexico for a junior, and frankly in the silver space, one of the largest programs. We're drilling a 120,000 meter program this year with 13 drill rigs, including one directional drill rig. We bring a very experienced team with over 185 years of combined experience across all facets of the mining industry. And we do have multiple avenues to re-rate here. We put out our maiden resource in the first quarter of this year in March, and we're targeting an updated resource in Q4 based on this drilling. Alternatively, we have an option to expedite into production, given the operating infrastructure currently on site. Several mills in the district, ranging in capacity from 200 to 500 tons per day. We own one. It's a 500 ton per day flotation plant. Again, I mentioned the exploration, very aggressive, and we are well positioned to execute with around $25 million currently today in the bank and no debt. So here's a quick snapshot, 149 million shares outstanding. We do have analyst coverage from 4 shops, Canaccord, PI, Agentis, and Roth Capital. Analyst consensus on a Canadian basis is sitting at $4.15. I'd like to point out our shareholders here. We do have a very strong institutional shareholder base, but most importantly, if you look at management directors and insiders, we hold about 16% of the outstanding shares, so we certainly have skin in the game. I'll point out some names quickly here on our senior management team. Our president, CEO, director, Michael Connert, he founded the company back in 2018. He had success early on with a cobalt company with his partner Craig Perry, whom some of you might know. Also Jesus Velador, we just added him. He's a VP exploration. He brings an academic sense to the district here. He's got a lot of successes, notably working with Pettingell, involved in the Val de Cañas discovery at Municipio. On the board side, Craig Perry, again, industry veteran, current chairman of Skeena Resources, former CEO, founder of ISO, NextGen, EMR Capital, and 10 years at Rio Tinto. Another name here that's very important is Simon Smirlik. So Simon's the current COO of Ausenco Engineering, lots of experience in Latin America, commissioning, building plants and facilities. They're actually, Ausenco's building Las Chispas just up the road, Silvercrest project. So a great benchmark there for numbers. So ESG is extremely important to us. You can't run a mine in Mexico from Vancouver. You need to have quality relations. We have 6 ejidos that cover the property. We have 25-year access agreements with all 6. And 3 of those ejidos, the ones that cover the bulk of our resources, we just recently signed 30-year exploitation agreements, so operating agreements in place. But it's extreme ownership that we've instilled on to these individuals. And 70% of our workforce, which is about 200 individuals down in site, are made up of the local community, so around 70%. And our lost time incident it's 550,000 man hours now. So, it's a terrible pun, but that doesn't happen by accident, right? So we've got that safety culture in place. So the district here is quite large, 14 kilometers long by around 7 kilometers wide. Again, 45-minute drive from Mazatlan. You can see here it's got excellent access. 2 highways, federal highways, bisect the property with high-tension power running parallel. Again, this is a past-producing district, so dates back to the conquistadors. There's lots of mineralization everywhere, and again, that infrastructure is supportive of us taking it to the next level. It's 100% owned by us. The closest major is First Majestic. They have their San Dimas mine located around 80 kilometers to the north in Durango. That would be the most direct analog from a geologic perspective. We are advancing several discoveries we made last year, most notably Napoleon and Tajitos down there in the southwestern corner of the map. And we're advancing that with 13 drill rigs. So again, 6 focused on resource expansion, 1 of those being a directional drill rig, and 7 focused on true exploration targeting new undrilled targets. This is a boring slide. I'll just tell you, this is the maiden resource we put out in March. 8 veins went into that resource. This is based on 18 months of drilling. 8 veins went into the resource, 13 total wireframes. Every one of those wireframes is open in every direction. This year, again, 120,000 meters went into it. We're doubling down and drilling another 120,000 meters. So of that resource, 57% was classified in the indicated category, so having a higher confidence than just your inferred. Not many maiden resources come out with that level of confidence. 95%, this is a polymetallic epithermal deposit. 95% is precious metals. Of that, 52% is silver. So we are a true silver primary story here. And this is a great metric. Around $25 million at the time of this resource had been spent on exploration. Based on this 106 million ounces combined resource, that netted us a 23-cent per ounce discovery cost. And if you were to look at every single dollar spent since inception of the company, it's around 98 million US. That covers share issuance, paying property vendors, everything. That would yield us a 92-cent per ounce discovery cost. So extremely capital efficient drilling here. Again, another kind of boring, confusing slide, but the point here is just to show you a cross-section of underground, Latin American-focused silver projects. We are the only one on here that has a maiden resource, but you can see we're smack dab in the middle in terms of size. Grade second only to Silvercrest Las Chispas, which is one of the highest grade silver assets globally. When you look at it in terms of a 250 gram per ton cutoff, so bumping that cutoff grade, which is really the line of what's economic and what's not, you see that we have limited metal loss, but our grade bumps up by 42%. This is more indicative of what a mining scenario would look like if we did that today. Now, we've got a vastly underexplored district. Our resource is based only on 5% of the known vein strike we have on property. So this is just a snapshot in time that will change. We're very confident in that. So where are we going to grow? This is Napoleon. Napoleon hosts about 50% of our maiden resource. We've delineated a high-grade subzone here we call Gallinero. It hosts around 13.3 million ounces, grading 650 grams per ton silver equivalent in the indicated category alone. This is where you would look to initiate mining. We're actively investigating, currently driving an exploration decline in here to have more capital efficient drilling underground, as well as, increased exposure and potential to develop. But the real key for us exploring Napoleon here in the near term, ahead of this resource update in Q4, is a long strike to the south here where these arrows are pointing and down plunge. We do have this runway at depth. These systems typically run between 600 and 800 meters from the top to the base of the mineralized horizon. But a long strike and down plunge to the south is where we're finding increased grades and increased widths. And that's really driven by this model that our geologists have come up with, which is really just highlighting where we may sit in the epithermal profile. Imagine if this had been tilted horizontally or stacked horizontally, which it was, and then subsequently tilted through an extension event. Based on metal zonation, the alteration, and the overall geology, we've come up with a gold-rich zone that's in the north that's more shallow, followed by a precious metals-rich core, and then as you get deeper, you find an uptick in base metals. And so our focus is really below this gold-rich shallow zone in this precious metals-rich core. And that's exactly what we continue to test and continue to validate this model by the drill bit. And this is just a great slide highlighting the progression since discovery. You know, it's noted by that little blue dot. You might have to squint to see it. But I think the real key takeaway on this image is this is a true panel or curtain of mineralization. And any engineers in the room would know this type of orientation really lends itself to having many open faces that can be mined simultaneously. And that's important because that can in turn feed a much higher scope milling facility. And so although we do have 500 ton per day capacity on site currently, we envisage a much higher scoped facility here, 1,500 ton per day plus processing plant. Just one last slide I want to highlight here is the real low-hanging fruit we have, and that's the Copala vein. This structure is a near flat-lying structure, different than our typical subvertical structures, and it's much thicker, on the order of 10x. So 8 holes were poked into this for the resource, contributed 24 million ounces. That's a quarter of our resource base, all above 200 meters depth. This is exactly where the low-hanging fruit is, and so pay attention to Copala and the area around it as we continue to explore and march forward with this large drill program ahead of this resource update in Q4.